All right, y'all. I got a lot to show you guys because Gypsy posted some stuff. But I also got a spin the block. I got a Diddy update, a Kim Kardashian update. And then I added a little bit of political stuff, but it's just information. Take it for what it is. And I think part of it's funny, which is why I chose to feature these. Anyway, I hope y'all are having a great weekend. And let me know your thoughts. Miss Gypsy Rose Blanchard, come to the front of the stage. So I heard you say that this was Ken's Christmas gift from you. Now I noticed that you paid for another trip for you and Ken to go on. Now look, you know I don't like you, but I'm gonna be 100 with you because I want everybody to be loved, okay? I know you did this because you want a proposal because you've been dry begging on the internet for that man to propose to you. Stop moving in masculine energy. If a man wants you, he will go get you. Okay? Men are natural born hunters. You moving in masculine energy, showing all of this, doing all of this, all you're doing is proving how desperate you are for love and showing that you don't see yourself as valuable. So you have to chase him because he doesn't value you enough to do it himself, okay? To make matters worse, you gonna drag his ass to Disney with your daughter and hope that he does it there and embarrass yourself and maybe not even get one. And even if you get proposed to, this man clearly can't stand you. We have watched his body language over and over again. Like the way he looks at you, girl, you riding for that man with no brakes and he running from you. And I heard Ryan say that you keep saying he threatens to kick you out and take that baby away from you. If he is doing that now, you think a marriage is going to help? Girl, get like a mango and let that man go. Anyway, look, I'm just saying. Again, you know I don't like you, but you never gonna find love chasing a man. Because men are like dogs. You chase them, they run. I'm not saying they are, well, maybe. I don't know, y'all. This Gypsy Rose Blanchard spent money to surprise her baby daddy on a trip to Alaska. But also, her ex-husband keeps saying that Gypsy is complaining to him that he keeps trying to hold the baby from her and threatening to kick her out. Look, I know a lot of people are saying they don't believe that Ryan actually has information or he has been communicating with her. I actually do believe he has. Remember those messages between him and her in prison? Ryan will do anything for her. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I actually think it's a bad thing. But I also feel like Gypsy tries to set them up. She wants Ryan to dislike Ken so much, and she wants Ken to dislike Ryan so much to keep him in like a triangulation. Which is why I think if something happens, it's going to be Gypsy using one of them to do something to the other one because of the anger. And it's the same way she has Ryan so mad at Christy and blaming Christy for the marriage. It's all a setup. But then Gypsy posts this. So they're also going to Disney World in 2026. I think she's making sure that Ken has 2 opportunities to propose to her. But what I think is so crazy, why would you want a man to propose to you that don't want you and has been very clear that he doesn't want you? Yeah, he tries to fake it for the public. For whatever reason, y'all be having some sort of deal. I don't know if it's an NDA or what, but it's clear by your interactions. Like, Gypsy, you look desperate. Like, it's coming to a point. It's like, girl, love yourself. Like, what are you doing? Here you go with the stage Christmas photo. Like, girl, you have got to stop. I don't know what you got going on, but it's giving fraud. It's the scheme that Todd set up to come with us with the bullshit. That's what it's giving. And you know, one thing I will say, Gypsy, is you move in so much masculine energy because begging for an engagement is basically, if a man wants something, he'll go after it. Men are natural hunters. If he wants you, he will go after you. If he hasn't, he don't want you. Stop forcing him because you're going to be chasing him for the rest of your life looking goofy. Now this is where the Gypsy Rose story gets insane. Allegedly, Gypsy Rose had been telling Nick Godejohn that she was pregnant. She claimed she had a miscarriage because of the feeding tube that she was on, which might be the reason she was able to talk him into unaliving her mother. Now, allegedly, Gypsy Rose was handicapped, correct? Then how was her house able to be this cluttered with a wheelchair? Allegedly, Gypsy Rose's mom had gout, she was diabetic, and she had pretty major health concerns, and she was not able to walk that well. And from a source that I'm not willing to disclose, she supposedly was taking care of her mother, which would kind of make sense because she had a phone, she had her laptop, she had been dating guys off of Facebook, she was on dating sites, and for some reason, she allegedly said that she was being held hostage. And if Gypsy Rose was handicapped this entire time, how come she never had any home health care, nor a nurse that would visit her frequently? Allegedly, Gypsy Rose's porch that she claimed she was chained on faced the street. So why wouldn't her neighbors see that she was chained? Allegedly, Gypsy Rose's mother was never writing prescriptions. That was allegedly a lie told by Kirsty Blanchard. In Gypsy's medical records, it does show a reduction of her salivary glands, but not a complete removal, like she said. But of course, this is alleged, which kind of makes sense because she does clear her throat very well in her last TikTok video she posted yesterday. Allegedly, all the muscle reflex testing that she took always came back she had great reflexes. Now, Gypsy Rose said she ran away, but her mom found her and brought her back home and chained her up for 2 weeks. But in the docuseries, when they stated this, there was absolutely no proof of her actually running away. This is Gypsy's word. Now, with all this information we have, and if Gypsy Rose could prove that she was really abused and really harmed, don't you think she would have taken this to trial? Allegedly, Gypsy Rose took the plea deal so that none of her medical records and lies were exposed, because the entire time Gypsy was in on this entire scandal. The Make-A-Wish Foundation that gave her home, she knew she had to play the part. And the reason her and Diddy left Louisiana, because they knew they started to discover them. And allegedly, when they moved, it was a new start. She was able to go to new doctors, and her and Gypsy could run their game again. But at this point, Gypsy was in love with Nick Kodajan, and she wanted to be with him, and Diddy was getting in the way. Also, allegedly, Diddy told her that if they don't figure something out, they both could go to prison for fraud. Kim Kardashian just failed the California bar exam. And baby, I guess I gotta respect that kind of delusion, because most of us would have just gave up 5 years ago. But Kimberly Esquire and Training Kardashian, not her. And I just want to remind everybody how she became famous. I think that is very important when it comes to stuff like this. I mean, she's been on her lawyer journey since, 2018, trying to follow in her dad's footsteps. She passed that baby bar back in 2021 after failing 3 times this summer, and she finally took the bar, and she confirmed that she didn't pass. But Kim hopped on Instagram, no shortcuts, no giving up. I'm still in it. Okay, baby. Now, let's keep it real. The California bar is brutal. It's one of the hardest in the country. We're talking about 200 multiple choice questions, essays, performance tests, the kind of exam that humbles you faster than a math quiz with letters in it, okay? But here's what I like. She's not running from the L. She's owning it. She's showing people, even billionaires, get humbled by tests and things that happen. And regardless of the caffeine-induced panic attacks and that kind of irony, I gotta respect that. So yeah, Kim Kardashian did not pass the bar, but she still got drive, the discipline, and the DR briefcase, okay? So at this point, she's one essay away from turning her next failure into a Hulu special. You ever see Rihanna holding her baby all soft and angelic and think to yourself, wow, I really like the way she lives. I wish I could live like that too. Yeah, I thought so too, until my reality hit. So I wake up this morning feeling all cute, having my robe on, candles lit like I'm ready to romanticize my morning, like a Fenty commercial. And next thing I know, my 11-year-old took my Born in Roma Valentino fragrance. Like she's about to headline Paris Fashion Week. Baby, and I'm talking about the 1.7 ounce. And if you think that wasn't enough, sis decided to break my vase the other day. So now I'm left with petals, a broken vase, and heartbreak. Okay? All over my floor. Rihanna's out here glowing with peace and perfume, and I'm just glowing with frustration and Febreze. Like, I'm just, when I'm making this video. I know it's funny, but I'm for real. But honestly, it's fine because I looked around, took a deep breath, and I said what Carl Winslow used to say: 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. What the hell is bothering me? Okay, and I realized that this version is not quite perfect, but it's real, and it smells amazing thanks to my overzealous kid. So yeah, Rihanna's holding her baby like a blessing, and I'm holding my sanity together like candle wax and self-control. Still vibing though, okay? Still luxury, just the mom edition, but not the same type of mom edition. Word on the street is Diddy been telling inmates inside the prison that in early 2026, Wig is finna give him a pardon, but he just waiting on things to die down to give him that pardon. That's what he been telling the people inside the prisons, y'all, at Fort Dix. Why would Diddy be in there running his mouth like that? He ain't very smart. But do y'all think he gonna do it? I wouldn't be surprised. And obviously something's been worked out. But now that Diddy's running his mouth, can he really? Because I think Diddy thinks that these dudes that he's telling this to in the prison are going to keep their mouth quiet. But obviously they're not because they're running their mouths. But that's what they do in prison. Because they don't have nothing but time on their hands to run their mouth. So do you think Diddy's either talking too much? Do you think this is really going to happen? Or do you think him speaking this much may stop what he's trying to do, considering he says Wig is trying to let this all die down? What do y'all think? I really would love to know.
I ain't saying I'm an expert on terrorism or I know exactly what terrorists be doing, but in my opinion, terrorist organizations don't start food programs in their neighborhood to feed kids every day. In fact, that sounds like something the opposite of a terrorist organization would do, because while we out here spreading terrorism, why the fuck are y'all over there feeding kids? It's Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton, the founders of the original Black Panther Party for self-defense. Huey, born in Monroe, Louisiana, Bobby in Dallas, Texas, met each other in Oakland, California in 1966 at Merritt College. These two crazy college kids had this thought that the police shouldn't be able to brutalize black people with impunity, and if they did, then the Panthers would personally show up to hold that officer accountable for the brutalization he just unleashed on a black person. See, Huey studied the law and philosophy at Merritt College, and with his deep understanding of the Constitution and how policing is supposed to work, the Panthers were able to create their first ever cop watch, which was the Panthers doing armed patrols during police stops. They carried law books and only intervened when someone's rights were being violated. Yes, you heard me. California was an open carry state until the Black Panther Party was founded. You could walk on the beach with a motherfucking shotgun until black Californians start buying shotguns. Republican Don Mulford introduced the Mulford Act in 1967, not even a full year after the founding of the Black Panther Party, because yes, the Panthers weren't known for any violence and had shot anybody at that point in time. Y'all are black. What the fuck are y'all doing with guns? May 2nd, 1967, Bobby Seale and about 30 armed Panthers head down to the Capitol to protest the bill, saying it was unlawful and it was only created to destabilize the Panther Party. Now, no one was hurt outside of Ronald Reagan's feelings, who was the governor of California at that time. Being at the Capitol that day, Reagan turned to reporters and told them there's no reason why a citizen should be walking around on the streets with a loaded weapon today, which just confirmed that Reagan was never black in California. July 28th, 1967, Ronald Reagan signs the Mulford Act into California law, which would immediately cripple the Panthers Party defense system. Knowing that they were no longer allowed to ride around with loaded weapons, the police department began to target Bobby and Huey, which came to fruition the night of October 28th, 1967, when Oakland police officers John Frey and Herbert Haynes pulled Huey over. Shootout ensues. Huey is shot in the stomach, but not before he sends Officer John to the upper room and almost sends Officer Haynes with. Newton gets charged with first degree and assault with a deadly weapon. Both of those charges end up not sticking because the police are fucking liars. He gets sentenced from 2 to 15 years. His conviction is overturned by a California court in 1970, and after 22 months, free Huey is finally realized. By this time, the Panthers running wild. They got offices in Chicago, LA, New York, Algeria, London, food programs that fed thousands of children daily, free clinics, free education programs, clothing drives, free ambulance service, and community schooling, which forced Edgar J. Hoover, the director of the FBI at the time, to declare the Panther Party as the single greatest threat to the internal security of the United States in 1969, because we teach y'all kids. Y'all not gonna be over there teaching y'all kids that black power shit. Bring them over here. With the federal government in his left pocket and local authorities in his right, Edgar J. Hoover launched COINTELPRO, a counterintelligence program aimed to destabilize the Black Panther Party. Yes, that's correct. The United States federal government created an entire counterintelligence program designed to criminalize, jail, or kill members of the Black Panther Party, just like they did Fred Hampton in Chicago in 1969. When officers illegally raided Hampton's apartment, firing nearly 100 rounds and almost killing his 8-month pregnant fiance alongside with. By the early 1970s, these Panthers, watching their leaders be jailed or killed by the exact government they are forced to pay taxes to, started to affect power struggles and confidence inside of the party. And with the lack of resources and the full weight of the FBI's COINTELPRO looming over their heads, the Black Panther Party officially disbanded in 1982. The BPP knew from its very first inception that they stood against a tyrannical government, and the only way to do that was together. I'm not saying Bobby and Huey was just like geniuses, but I ain't never met a nigga named Huey that wasn't smart. And this entire food stamp debacle has really forced me to tip my hat to the government, and I'm not one to tell them that they're doing a good job with things, but the way that they're able to keep people stupid as fuck, even with internet access, these boys got it. Like these boys know how to prop. Because if I collected $5 trillion in tax revenue last year like the U.S. government did, then took $99 billion, which is only 2% of that money, and sent that on SNAP benefits, then took $181 billion, which is 3.7% of that money, and sent that to corporate welfare, then I got online and people are calling SNAP benefit recipients broke and telling them to stop looking for corporate handouts, I'd expect some fucking flowers. I expect some type of, look everybody, I'm stealing they shit and they haven't noticed trophy. Because even though they've received over $15.6 billion in government subsidies over the last 20 years, I ain't seen nobody call Bowen a broke bitch yet. How you on government assistance for 2+ decades and still got y'all hand out? Y'all must be hiding y'all money in a fucking plane. Jeff Bezos is one of the richest men on the planet. Money's not even an object to him anymore. Yet nobody told his begging ass to get a better job, even though Amazon has received over $14.5 billion in government subsidies over the last 20 years. Where the fuck is the money, Jeff? Are you shipping it back out in the Amazon box? Henry Ford passed away in 1947. The U.S. government has still given Ford over $9 billion in government subsidies over the last 20 years. If 78 years ain't long enough to get your shit together, it just ain't gonna happen. Even though General Motors is worth over $64.5 billion, even though they received the $17 billion bailout back in the 2008 financial crisis, even though they've received over $8 billion in government subsidies over the last 20 years, they still want full price for a Cadillac. Are y'all using the money to build cars? Is that why y'all still got y'all hand out? Because y'all are actually turning cars into... Imagine owning a company worth over $1 trillion, then you get on the phone with New York and say, hey, if y'all want us to build Teslas out there, y'all gonna have to spend $959 million of y'all money. I'm not building my own manufacturing plant. That's crazy talk. And if y'all want me to stay, the rent gonna have to be $1 a year. Yes, $1 fucking dollar. I'm not paying nothing. The average taxpayer paid about $17,500 into federal income taxes last year. They took about $500 of that and sent that to SNAP benefits. They took about $2,800 of that and sent that to the Department of War. I know we don't all agree that we should feed kids, but I'm sure we can agree that we shouldn't be blowing them the fuck up.
Where the hell did this guy come from? So I wanted to find out like what kind of put him on the map politically. As it turned, no, it had nothing to do with Muslims. No, it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with taxi drivers. So the city makes money by selling what are called medallions. And they're a physical medallion that goes on the car that gives them the right to operate a yellow cab. They kind of act like, almost like if you think of like a liquor license, where it's not like an annual licensing fee, it's an asset. Like you buy it and it's an asset. And you can, when you retire, for example, you could sell that medallion. Okay, so if I were to ask you, for a single cab driver, how much do you think they would pay for a medallion? What would you guess? Okay, yeah, I think that's a good guess. What would you guess?
5,000. Did she say
She said 5,000.
No, I would say like 100,000.
They were almost $100,000 by the 1980s and 1990s. These drivers would have to go get loans to buy these medallions because it's required for their business, right? In like the 2000s, New York City limited how many of those medallions they would put out. And so when they limited it, what happens to the price of medallions? They skyrocket. By 2013, they're selling for over $1 million. Wow. Over $1 million. It's being driven in part by the city itself because they're holding auctions and setting minimum bids. Then you've got the lenders who are just trying to get in on this big lending action, the exact same fury that happened over the 2008 housing crisis, where they were lending money to people that couldn't afford it. Let me tell you something, if you drive a taxi, you can't afford $1 million loan. What's happening is these lenders, and we're talking like Capital One and Melrose Bank, they were offering these crazy terms to get these people locked into these loans that they absolutely could not afford. And they're inflating the values to be able to give these people loans. So once they get into these loans, they then can't even afford to eat. And then along comes Uber that is not required to have medallions. And so what happens to the value of a medallion? almost overnight, it goes from being worth $1 million to being worth 600,000 to being worth 200,000. And by 2019, they did an auction of 16 of those medallions. 3 of them sold for about $137,000, and 13 of them didn't even get a bid. Now these people not only are in massive debt, but they're in massive debt over an asset that has no value.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so what happens? They start foreclosing left and right. Well, if they foreclose, you're out of business. Like, you've lost your career. And you could have your house tied up to it. You could have tied up to these loans. So it may not just be losing your cab. You could lose your home. And the cab unions are saying, look, this is ridiculous because the lenders and the city are engaging in predatory behavior. They're the ones who artificially inflated the value of those medallions, first by restricting them. So, Mom, there's 50,000 drivers in New York City, cab drivers, and there's like 13,000 medallions allowed. The city is taking no action. The drivers are asking the city to do something to protect them, like cap the amount of a medallion, cap the amount that a lender can put there, cap the amount of interest rates. At this point, help bail them out because the city is part of the reason they're in this situation. I mean, that's ludicrous. $1 million so somebody can have a job as a frickin' cab driver? Come on. It got so bad that in 2021, the cab drivers staged a hunger strike. They are desperate after 10 years of fighting the city to do something to stop it. But the city liked the inflated values too, because the city has tons of these medallions that they still own and control. So it behooves them for their books to have the highest valuation. Even though it was hurting the people, it was helping the city. So the city didn't care. So these drivers stage a hunger strike. And the point of their hunger strike is, look, we cannot even afford groceries. That's how bad this medallion situation has gotten. At that time, in 2021, Mandami was a 29-year-old assemblyman. So he was part of the legislature, but he couldn't get them to do anything either. So he actually went out on the steps of the Capitol and engaged in the hunger strike himself. And he did not eat anything for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And 2 weeks later, the city did something about it. They capped the amount of a license at $170,000, restructured the loans that these cab drivers had, some of them in the, many, many hundreds of thousands. The city gave grants up to $30,000 to help some of these drivers. They capped the payments at $1,100 a month. So they actually, at the end of that 2 weeks, they took action. And so he basically is credited by the cab drivers with saving their livelihoods.